Association. I'd like to thank you all for joining us here tonight for a very special presentation from Gael Hannan, author of The Way I Hear It, A Life with Hearing Loss. Now, as you've probably noticed, a hearing loop has been installed in the space for the benefit of those with telecoil-equipped and programmed hearing aids or cochlear implants. Our thanks to Grant Park Hearing Center and Starlight for providing this assistive technology. First off, would you please join me in welcoming representatives of Starlight to say a few words about the technology before we get underway.
Hi, I'm Tyler Briquette, CEO of Starlight Communications. This is Spencer Harris, my sales manager. From Grant Park Hearing, we have Evan McNabb. So just a little bit about the loop to start. It's an induction loop. You can see it taped around the area here. Hopefully everyone within the loop has the T-coils enabled and programmed so they can hear. Everyone can hear me okay? Is it working? Yeah. A little bit? Well, okay, that's good.
For the first time, I've actually turned the volume down on the hearing.
Perfect. Love to hear that. Well, I'm actually going to pass it off to Kevin now. That's about it. There is more information up front here, and we're going to be available all the way through the night if you have any questions about the loop and how it works. So, enjoy your evening.
Hi. As a lot of people here know, I'm Kevin from the Grant Park Hearing Center. I'm here to actually answer any questions you have about hearing aid technology. As Spencer mentioned, the loop is in the system here now. Some people may not have their hearing aids into a T-coil position, and that's where it has to be. With the newer modern digital technology, that has to be programmed by a computer. So I advise you to get to your hearing health professional and have that installed if you want to take advantage of a loop system like this. Some of us from the older generation remember the T-coil that you just took with your finger and put it into that position, yeah, and then it was active all the way for yourself. But unfortunately, the newer hearing aids have to be programmed by a digital computer. So I want to just mention that to everybody, and hopefully everybody will get that done.
Hearing Association, Gladys Nielsen.
I'm the short one, though. Good evening, everyone. Welcome. Wow, what a crowd. Thanks so much for coming. I think we're here all the way from BC to Newfoundland and all points in between. Wow. Can you hear me okay at the back? Good. It is my pleasure tonight to introduce you to Gael Hannan. The first time I met Gael was many years ago when she was performing Unheard Voices. We later invited her to our conference, and that was held in Southport, Manitoba in the year 2000. She made us laugh, she made us cry, and she made it possible for us to show others how it feels to live with hearing loss. Gael has continued to perform, to give talks, to write blogs, and travel throughout Canada and the United States. And along the way, she is the voice for the hard of hearing at hotels, restaurants, and airports. As a board member of the CHA National, she is a strong advocate for us. She reaches out to students in grades 5 and 6 with her Sound Sense program, using a funny video that grabs their attention. Save your hearing for the music. Turn down the volume. It is time to share all her work in the new book. She has since written The Way I Hear It. And now in May 2016, she is back in Manitoba for a talk and some book signing tonight. So enjoy her humor and learning about her coping strategies. Please welcome Gael Hannan.
Thank you very much, Gladys. And wow, this is a great turnout. I'd like to say that when I come to Manitoba, the weather always does strange things to welcome me. When I was speaking in Southport so many years ago, it was 30 degrees in Toronto and it was 30 degrees centigrade in Manitoba. When I got on the plane to come to Manitoba, and when I arrived, there was 6 inches of snow on the ground. So, and coming across the prairies, as my husband and I did over the last few days, the weather was lovely until we hit Manitoba. So I'm going to try not to take it personally. But, I don't know whether I'll have the opportunity to make you laugh or cry this evening. I only have a few minutes, but it is such a pleasure to be here. What I wanted to know, how many of you are from Winnipeg? Okay. How many of you are from Manitoba but from outside of Winnipeg? Everybody at the back, okay. You guys shouldn't be shy. Winnipeg people are nice and move up and integrate. And how many of you are from other points across the country? Okay, great, wonderful, fantastic to be here. Hearing loss changes lives. And I know it changes lives because if I didn't have hearing loss, I might be married to somebody completely different. And my son might look completely different. He might even be a girl. And I know this because at least 1 or 2 other guys in my past seem to want something more permanent with me, but I'm not sure I heard them correctly. So those romances fizzled out. The other question I wanted to ask you, how many of you actually have some degree of hearing loss? Wow. How many of you here are supportive friends and family members? Okay. How many of you are here because you have nothing else to do on a Thursday night in Winnipeg? Okay, there's one. And the other possibility is that there's another event going on at the other side of McNally. So if this doesn't sound like what you came to hear, you can go to the other side. So, because you have hearing loss, most of you, I would guess that you bluff. Do you know what I mean by bluffing? It means that you pretend to understand what's going on when you really don't. How many of you bluff? Good. If I didn't see your hands going up, then I would know that you're bluffing. It's what we do as people with hearing loss. We are the kings and queens of bluffing. We are the dukes of deception, the princesses of pretending, because that's what we do. And I learned the hard way what can happen if you bluff. So I'm going to tell you a couple of stories. Some of you have heard this before, but it's the best story I have, so I'm going to tell it again. A yes story and a no story. I'm going to start with the no story. Back when I was in my mid-20s, like back in the medieval times, I was living in Vancouver, British Columbia, and I was dating a nice fellow whose name I do not remember. But, so we'll just call him this nice fellow. Now, one evening, this nice fellow and I were out for a walk along the beach. Now, if you have hearing loss, you understand the problems in that. First of all, we were walking, presumably in the same direction at the same time. Kind of makes it hard to lip read, which is what we do, right? Very dangerous. Second is that it was nighttime. Try lip reading in the dark. It doesn't work so well. Thirdly, it was along the beach with those beautiful romantic waves. They're romantic for the hearing people, but for those of us with hearing loss, they drown out speech. So we're walking in the same direction in the dark with the waves rolling in. So this nice fellow asked me something, and I didn't catch it. And I don't know, maybe I had said, pardon? Huh? What? Once too many times that night. And I was tired of it. And listening to his voice, I could tell that whatever he asked me was either a yes answer or a no answer. Yes or no. 50-50, I was going to get it right. So I picked one. I said no. Now, I could tell right away from his body language that that was not the expected answer. Now, the me now evolved, educated person with hearing loss that I am. If it was back then, I would have said, "Oh, excuse me, nice fellow. I must not have heard what you said. Would you mind repeating yourself?" But I didn't do that. I just repeated and I went, "No. End of relationship." Never saw that nice fellow again. And to this day, I have no idea what he asked me. None. But I can guess. He probably said something like, "I really like you, Gail. Do you like me?" "No." "We've been going out for a while now, Gail. Do you want to keep going out?" "No." That was it. And in spite of the fact that I can't remember his name, I really liked him. And, I learned a lesson. And I made a vow not to bluff anymore, which of course I ignored that. But let's fast forward a whole number of years, and I was with another nice fellow, and I know his name. His name is Doug. And Doug and I had been going out for a while. In fact, we were living together. And I don't know why he did this, but he did. One morning, really, really early in the morning, and so people with hearing loss, we don't have our contact lenses in, and we don't have our hearing aids in or cochlear implant. I opened my eyes, and what did I see one pillow away was this. Couldn't hear anything, but I saw his lips, and I thought back to that nice fellow on the beach, and I thought, I don't want to get this question wrong. So I did what every good person with hearing loss should do. I verified and I clarified, and I said, probably very loudly, because I didn't have my hearing aids in, "Doug, I think I just saw your lips say, 'Let's get married.' Did your lips say, 'Let's get married,' Doug?" And he went. So I said, and we did. Now, it took me like 15 years to get that right. So that's what I'm saying. If I hadn't been bluffing, I would be married to some other person living in Vancouver. And my son would look different. Now, that's my husband back there. Say hi, Doug. Yeah. So, and there's a good reason I picked that man. Well, he asked me to marry him was one reason. And he's a nice guy is another. But he also has big lips. So just give them a moment to look at your lips. Yeah. So it's not that they're outsized or like big fish lips or anything, but it's easy to understand. And so many relationships, when you have hearing loss, if you can't understand them, like, you're not going to marry someone you don't know what they're saying. So, but one of the many reasons why I married Douglas is because we could communicate well. And hearing loss has, I always say, it reserves its biggest wallop, its biggest impact is on relationships. And I can only guess what it's like to develop hearing loss later in life. You've been married to someone, all of a sudden you lose your hearing and you think, holy moly, I've married a mumbler. And by this point, 30 years in, it's really hard to do something about that. Oh. Living with hearing loss has challenges in almost every aspect of your life. It goes to every corner of your life, being your romance, your jobs, your going to school. And when you develop hearing loss, unless you're born with it like me, how do you find this stuff out? How do you know how to deal with it? Because whenever we start to develop hearing loss, it's very isolating and it's frightening. How many of you developed your hearing loss as an adult? Most of you. So you know what I'm saying. Now, I grew up with it, but I can understand what it must be like. And because many of us with lifelong hearing loss, we lose our hearing more bit by bit. In fact, my hearing has changed in the last year to the point that I'll be getting a cochlear implant. So something I never expected. So we also go through the change in hearing. Oops, sorry, whoever did hear. So, but way back when, and I married Doug, and we were expecting a baby. Up to this point, I didn't know one other person with hearing loss. No one. But all of a sudden, my hearing loss took on a real personal aspect. I was nervous. I was going to have a baby. And what if I didn't hear my child crying in the night? What would I do? Now, any woman who's had a baby understands what happens. The baby cries, the husband goes, baby's crying, and out you get. But what if I didn't hear my child burp? Would he blow up? I needed help. I needed information. And there were no books back then, this was back in the 90s, no books on how to be a mom with hearing loss to presumably a hearing child. And I reached out for the first time to other people with hearing loss, the Canadian Hard of Hearing Association. And I got the answers that I needed. And I learned a lot. I went into that meeting and came out a changed person. And I learned that I wasn't alone. And I learned that even after living my entire life, I was 41 when Doug and I had our son Joel, I didn't know that I'd been carrying around this big monkey of shame on my shoulder. And by learning from other people, it was a wonderful thing. There were no books. I would love books. I mean, I was just thinking, what books would I have written if I didn't write this one? I mean, Hearing Loss for Dummies, How to Hear Better in 30 Days, 50 Shades of Pardon. I like that one. And When Mommy Can't Hear Baby. These books, none of those books existed. Now there are more books. And, well, I wrote a book. And in this book is my lifetime of hearing loss. And it's your lifetime of hearing loss too. Whether you grew up with your hearing loss or whether you developed it as an adult. We always can learn something more about how to communicate. We don't want to hear, well, yes, we would like to hear better, of course we would, but we accept that our hearing may never get better. Probably won't. What can get better is how we communicate. That's the important thing. That's the glue that keeps us connected together. And I love the sign for communication. How many of you do sign language? Yes, well, you know communication. Everybody put your hands up, 2 C's. Everybody, Gladys. And now move them back and forth. Back and forth. And that's the sign for communication. And I love that because it shows that it's a two-way street. So when I got connected with people with the hard of hearing community, that's what I want to talk about, hard of hearing. How many of you say that you're hard of hearing? How many of you say you have hearing loss? How many of you say hearing impaired? Yeah, and you know, there's all these different things that we call ourselves. Now, hard of hearing, for the longest time, I didn't like that. I went, what is that? Hard? Is that the inner ear's all hard and drying out? Or does it mean that the hearing is hard, challenging, a nightmare? I don't like that term, but you got to call it something. I mean, you can't just point. Would you mind speaking up? Yeah. You could say that you're hearing impaired, but that makes me sound like I'm broken. I like to shorten hard of hearing. I like acronym. So hard of hearing, that's H-O-H. Ladies and gentlemen, I am a hoe. In fact, actually, if you're going to call yourself a hoe, in fact, there's a group, several groups now that are calling themselves hoes, and there's a group in Houston called the Houston Hoes. But you just got to be careful who you say that to. Like, if a policeman stops you late at night and he's leaning in the window and the light's behind him and you can't understand him, you wouldn't want to say, hey officer, I'm a hoe. Don't want to do that. Definitely don't want to tell your mom you're a hoe, you know. But I decided that my next book is going to be called, I like to write about traveling with hearing loss, and it's going to be called A Hoe on the Road. So, after you read this book, you can wait for the next one. Anyway, my baby grew up just fine. He's as tall as his father, in fact taller. He just turned 20 and he's now 6'7.5", right? He grew up just fine. My husband and I are celebrating our 25th wedding anniversary this year, so we got through it. Every day we deal with the impact of hearing loss. Pardon? What? Why do you keep turning away from me? How do you know I can't understand you? Why are you calling me from another room? Speak up. Every day. Every day we go through this. No. I've learned, in closing, I have learned that in order to live well with hearing loss, I have to do 4 things. One is I have to be honest. How many of you feel that you are open about your hearing loss and you let people know that you have hearing loss? How many of you would like to be more comfortable in doing that? Absolutely. It's the hardest thing to do, isn't it? Isn't it? Yeah, to say, I have hearing loss. But I think it's getting better. Because nowadays when we say that, people aren't going to think that we're aloof or stupid or stuck up or that we won't know things. We just have hearing loss. That's our issue. So I've learned that I have to be honest. I have to be knowledgeable. I have to learn what kind of hearing loss do I have? What do I need to know about it? Who can help me? Books can help you. Organizations like CHA. And finally, the most important thing is let people know what you need. It's kind of hard to do, but once you learn to say, I have hearing loss, this is what I need you to do, then life will be a lot better. So I'm going to end it there. I want to say thank you for supporting CHA. Thank you for coming out. It's sort of short and sweet. I can guarantee I didn't make anyone cry tonight, but I hope it made you want to learn a little bit more about living well with hearing loss. Does anyone have any questions before we... Yeah. Any questions? Anybody want to make a question up? Okay. Well, I want to thank you very much for coming out and supporting us all. And I think someone's going to finish off and hope to see you again. Now, the Canadian Hard of Hearing Association has a conference every other year, and next year we'll be holding one in British Columbia. We'll be letting you know more about that, and we'd love to have you come out, okay? To meet a whole bunch of hoes just like you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Gail, for the inspirational talk. I'm sure we all enjoyed it, and many helpful hints. So thank you from the bottom of our hearts for coming out here. We enjoyed it, and in token of appreciation, we would like to give you this. We also want to let you know that we really appreciate the fact that the loop system was sponsored by Starlight and by Grant Park, Kevin McNabb. So we have a certificate for each of them in acknowledgement for sponsoring the loop and providing this technology for this event. So if we could present this to both Starlight Company from the CHA chapter and also to Kevin McNabb of Grant Park Hearing Center. Thank you very much. We have feedback forms that we would really like you guys to fill out. If you enjoyed the loop, if you have any questions about it, please do fill it out, because McNally Robinson does want to know about it. Kevin wants to know, Spencer, we all want to hear about it. But I invite you to now go meet with Gail, get a book, talk with her, enjoy some drinks back there. There's lemonade, iced tea, cookies. Please help yourself and meet, gather, and talk. And again, thank you on behalf of CHA Manitoba for coming. We enjoyed having you. Take care.